Hello and welcome to PM Personality Profile. I know I'm not what you're expecting, but then life is full of surprises. My name is Jennifer Jane Asante, and today we're talking with Opanin obeng fosu. He used to be the Chief Labor Officer, and there's quite a bit we can learn from him on what life was like way back then, what labor has been like, how it has traveled and evolved in our current terrain, and what is the way forward. He'll be telling us some of life's lessons that he has learned along the way. Welcome to the show, Opanin.
Thank you.
Opanin, I mentioned that you used to be the Chief Labor Officer. I know you didn't wake up one morning that way. How did you start in that field?
Okay. What happened was that after secondary school in 1954, I did my secondary school at Prempeh College, and I came to Accra to work. First, I did some people teachers work in Mantown, Asiakwa in the Eastern region, and came to Accra to work with the post office and then PWD. Okay. PWD because I did science at school, so PWD I was my technical assistant. We were testing the roads before they are built. And then I left for post office. There I sat and passed executive officers exams, and I went for an interview at Labor Department, where I was selected as a labor inspector on 1st of July, 1957. So I was a labor inspector and continued on that line. What the labor inspectors were doing in those days was to help their labor officers to achieve their aims. That is, to see that better working conditions are provided at enterprises, both private, public, and the civil service. Okay. You know, we have the public service, which contains those people within the civil service proper, where I was, and then we have other public corporations, which are were governmental in those days. And so we were looking for them, and then the private sector. When I talk about private sector, I'm talking about those in private sector like UTC, UAC, and other things, and then the Lebanese. Okay. And then some organizations which were, say, for example, private contractors who were building roads and building accommodations. So these people should comply with labor laws in their country. Right. And as labor inspectors, you were doing labor inspections to see whether they are conforming with what the labor laws say they should, especially the minimum wage.
How often were you checking on these companies?
Yes, we were checking on them at least once every 3 months or once every 6 months. Oh, okay. In those days, the government were resourcing the departments. So labor inspectors were given loans to purchase motor bicycles. Right. Those of us who were not heavy enough, we bought scooters. Okay. So that it can carry us along. And when I was in Accra here, I was here for about 1 year. We were going around. That time Accra was not so big.
Things have changed.
Yes, things have changed. Up to Arms Hotel, then you have the Accra Central, where you have most of the Lebanese and Syrians having stores, cheating their storekeepers, their store assistants and so on. So you go to do inspections to see whether they are conforming with the wage rates.
Oh, okay. You see. So you looked at wage, you looked at what else?
Terms of employment, conditions of service. Terms of employment, I mean, for example, whether they have, now we call them washrooms, and all those things, you see, to see whether those things are properly kept.
And this was done for the public and the private sector?
For both public and private sector. You see, because we want to see whether they are not cheating the employees. And those, the Lebanese organizations, the stores, they were having something called wage race. And they pasted it on the walls. And we see that they are complying with them. If you are not complying with them, we take you to court. We will write to you first. And my boss, that is our bosses, they will write to you first. And then if you don't comply, you can then send you to court for the court to ask you to comply with the laws.
Wow.
You see? And those were the things we were doing.
I can imagine it wasn't easy doing that, because I'm sure you faced some opposition. Some employers would rather maybe slip you something under the table so that you don't report them if they're doing things the wrong way.
Yes, if you are not organized, or if you are not somebody who you are very, very, very frail to things that somebody wants to influence you, if you allow yourself to be influenced. But more often than not, you try not to be influenced.
I'm interested that you moved from from science it was, into administration, with a small detour in the postal service.
Yes, I did a little 1 year in the post office, in the account section there. And then I came to the labor office. The labor office, you see here, is an interesting area because you are dealing with human beings. You see how workers relate with their employers, how employers either cheat the employees, or how the employees to at times cheat the employers by way of stealing their goods and other things,
or being late.
Being late and so on and so forth. And whether somebody who doesn't do well is terminated or dismissed, and whether the termination or dismissal was properly done in accordance with the laws.
So it's not just administrative, it was also human relations, human resource management.
Correct, human relations. In those days, those persons who were helping, say, those big organizations like, say, UAC, Leventis, other charams and other things. Those people who were helping their employees to do it, we were calling them personnel officers. You see, but now we call them human resource persons. You know, things are changing. So that's what we are doing. And when you go and you tell them to do the correct thing, when you are asking them to do the correct thing, you quote the law that is applicable. So
you needed to know the law properly before you went out?
Yes, when you are employed as a labor officer or labor inspector, you are giving all the labor laws. In those days, we were having so many of the labor laws. Labor ordinance, trade union ordinance, workman compensation ordinance, all those laws. There were many. But now we have just one, the labor law.
So it's all been...
But I will tell you how we came to this. So when you go and they are not paying the correct rate, then you also ask them to do the correct thing. In those days, minimum wages were, as I said, minimum wage is the wage below which no employer should pay. So in those days, minimum wages were paid for the day worked. You see? And so if you are working, and those days we were working on Saturdays too, we were doing 7.5 hours a day, not 8 hours. We were doing 7 hours a day from Monday to Friday, and then 5 hours on Saturday from 7:30 to 12:30. So if February is 20 days, because we know February is the month of fewer days, that is 28 or 29. Then the days, working days in that month is what you multiply by the minimum wage, which was something like, that time it was 4 shillings per day, or 4 and 6 pence.
What year was this?
57, 50, 50,
57,
58, 68, 68.
So right from independence.
Yes, those days we were spending pounds and shillings. You see, you have 10 shillings, make a pound. You see, and so if you are working and you are paid 4 pounds, 6 shillings, you see, then it's something which you can cope with. And then in those days, when we come to do the inspection, you are not paying what the law is saying. Then we tell you to pay what the law is saying.
Okay.
But then, in those days, we had the workers group, which was led by the TUC, and then the employers group, which was led by Ghana Employers Association and the government. So the three of them called themselves tripartite group.
Yes.
And they met several times and saw that those people who were paid daily rated, that is, those people, the laborers and the masons, that is the tradesmen, were getting an unfair pay during the month of February. Because
it's shorter than the other months.
Yet they were paying the same rent where they rent. For example, I was staying at Lagos Town, Accra New Town, this side. And one room was costing, say, 10 shillings.
Okay.
So if you are paying 10 shillings, you pay 10 shillings for February, you pay 10 shillings for December.
Even though the days are not the same. So if you're getting a daily rate, then you were being shortchanged. Okay.
And so these people discussed it for a very long time, and they came to a conclusion that they should do something for those people. And that's where we have the minimum wage.
Oh.
That's where we started the minimum wage. That was 1950, 1960. And then it was agreed that we should multiply the daily wage by 27. And this went through so many processes.
Okay.
They looked at the number of days in the month, the number of days in the year, and then did subtractions and additions, and they came to agreement of 27. So they made a law that minimum wage, anytime you are paying somebody who is on daily rated, as against those of us who were on salary. You see, as for the salary workers, no problem. Because whether it's 20 days or 30 days, you get the
fixed amount. But daily rates.
So from that time, it was from 1966 that it was agreed that daily rated employees should be paid a pay multiplied by 27.
Right.
So whether the days or the months, because normally these days, those days were working on Saturdays. But from 1966, especially to 1972, we started working only
Monday to Friday. So you shortened it to a 5-day week.
A 5-day week.
This was part of the process to even things out between the daily rated workers and the salaried workers.
And again, the reason why we started working on Saturdays, we stopped working on Saturday was that many people thought that employees ran away from work to go and do shopping. And so they wanted to get a day for them as shopping. So three things were done. The government said, look, we would either work through, that is, from 7:30 to 3 o'clock, 30 minutes break. Or we work half day on Wednesday, or we will not work on Saturday. There were three proposals. And most people agreed that we should not work on Saturdays. But that did not take effect from that time. It was during the Second Republic, that is, during the time of Progress Party, Dr. Buzia. So it did not take place. And when a champion took over, when the champion made his coup, and he came, we saw that that was a very fair thing. So he said that as for them, they will not have to go to Parliament because they were using decrees. And so they said, look, now everybody should work for, every organization should work from Monday to Friday, and that Saturday's hours should be spread over the Monday to Friday. And then the Saturdays should be used as Operation Feed Yourself time. I think you heard of Operation Feed Yourself. That was the time the Operation Feed Yourself started. Then he said it should be Operation Feed Yourself. That day everybody should do some gardening behind his house or her house, or to go to look for some small land and do gardening, so that the cost of living will come down. So
I wanted to ask how people were managing with their salaries And the cost of living at the time, right now, there's a lot of labor agitation
Yes.
on that.
The cost of living in those days was very, very good. Because if I want to buy this shirt, and I go to Charams, I see this shirt, it's costing 10 shillings. 6 months time, when I go, it will be the same 10 shillings.
Okay.
So you will save towards what you want to buy. And again, most organizations in the civil service were allowing their employees to buy things from good shops like UAC, UTC, Cherams, and the Kingsway and others.
Yeah, they were buying things on layaway.
So they were giving them passbooks.
Okay.
So if you go to those stores and you want a passbook, you go to your officer, he'll give you a letter that you are a salaried employee there.
Okay.
And that your pay is assured every month. Then they'll give you a passbook. Then you go with the passbook to the shop to buy things.
To choose what you want, and they would record it.
Yes, but for example, if you are earning 10 pounds a month, they wouldn't give you anything more than, say, 5 pounds.
That makes sense.
So that you will not lock all your money with that thing. But you know, in those days, interesting things were happening. Many civil servants who were having that opportunity, they will go and buy those things. They will go to see market women. What do you want? I want 1 carton milk, one carton sardine. Then you go and buy it from that shop, and then come. The sardine was being sold 6 pence. 6 pence. If you want to eat easier, say 6 pesos. But it was 6 pence, more than the 6 pesos now. So 6 pence, and then you buy it with the passbook, and you come to the woman and give it to her at, say, 5.5 pence.
Oh.
So we are calling it Gold Coast. That you go and instead of you to go for a loan to pay 100%, because if you go for a loan of 10 shillings, that person will take another 10 shillings.
Yes.
So you'd
have to do it this way,
this is
as a soft loan. Okay.
Soft loan.
We're being schooled in how things were done way back when, and the lesson continues after this break. Welcome back from our break. We're talking to Opanin Fosu. He used to be the Chief Labor Officer, and he's been giving us a lesson in how things were done in his time. Now we want to know a little more about that, but also let's make it a family discussion. If you had a family in those days, were the wages enough? Were you able to manage things? You were talking about how sometimes you had passbooks to purchase things on layaway and the little tricks people used to make life easier for themselves. How were they managing with families? Family sizes were larger back then than they are now.
As I told you, we were then earning pounds, shillings, and pence. And anybody earning something like 10 pounds, that is somebody who has gone to secondary school and finished, would earn 10 pounds, 16 and 8 pence. It was a big money. And so if you even have a wife and a family, you can be able to cope with it.
Okay, now you said that someone who had been to secondary school would earn maybe about 10 pounds,
16 and 8 pence, because he comes out as a clerical officer.
Okay, so then there were salaries that were pegged to certain levels of education, certain standards?
Yes, certain standards. That is, we call it clerical officer. If you finish secondary school, you enter the civil service as a clerical officer. But if you finish star 7 in those days, that is JSS, then you come as a clerical assistant, but you sit examinations and pass as a clerical officer. So you may even continue with that.
Okay.
I know some people who even finished star 7 and they were able to pass examinations and ended up as chief directors.
All right.
Both in the private sector and in the public sector.
Okay.
In the private sector, for example, Mr. Ninakwa, I don't know whether you heard this name before. And Ninakwa, he was once the chief executive of Kingsway.
Okay.
And he became chief executive of Cocoa Marketing Board in those days. But he's a star 7 school leaver.
Oh, but then he went through the ranks.
And he asked, I said, me too, I didn't go to the university. So I said, I went to the University of Experience. You see, because I haven't gone to university, but I've written a book on labor relations and is being used by other universities in the country.
Well,
I have a copy here.
I have a copy here. To you.
Yeah. I have
so
a copy
then
here.
We're in the right place to be getting schooled on labor.
So I normally say that I went to the University of Experience because when I was working, I was looking at everything that should be done, and I was looking at the genesis of those things, so that when it comes the point of me telling somebody, then I will be able to tell him or her how that thing was done. And because of that, people were always coming to me when I was in the labor department. I was then not the head. I was the head for 4 years, from 1991 to 1994. But people were coming, and anybody who came to the labor department to look for some information, they would direct him to me. And because of that, I had to do many researches to know how this happened. And when I did that, I saw that the best thing for me to do was to write a book.
Okay. I need to ask, was that a requirement of your particular job, or it's just the way you are as a person? You like to know how things happen?
Yes, the requirement was to know the work, but I felt that if I should know the work, then I should know it well. You see, so...
Have you always been that way?
Yeah, that's what I do. Anytime I want to do something, I want to know how that thing started.
Even as a child?
Something like that, because even from my school, from the middle school, that is, those days we were calling it senior school. From there, I didn't go to secondary straight away.
Okay.
I had to do a people teacher, and then I had to work as a laborer.
And this was before you went to Prempeh?
Yes, because I was very tiny child, and so you have to sit also common entrance examination, and then go to the secondary schools. In those days, it was not, you have the schools organizing their own examinations. Achimota, Prempeh, Fasipim, Adisadel, they organized them, but later on they came together to make it common entrance. Okay. So that you all take one examination. But in our days, it was not like that. You go to sit for the...
So you had to sit for the exam for Prempeh College?
Yes, and then you go there.
You worked as a laborer. Going into Prempeh College, a lot of the students would have come from privileged homes then.
Yes.
How did you feel?
Yes, when I went there, I didn't tell them that I had finished 2 years earlier than my mates.
Okay.
That's now 7 earlier than my mates. And I didn't let them know that I worked as a laborer before. Okay. Except one person who was my friend. Then I said, you see, I'm from a poor home, so I had to do something to be able to get something to help my parents to send me to the school.
What did he think of it?
Oh, he was saying that, oh, you've done well. Okay. Done well, and many people didn't know. But later on, I got to know that some other people too did the same thing. Were not able to enter secondary school immediately from the middle school or the standard 7.
So then they also took time off to work, get a little money to help their parents to support?
Yes, to support them.
So you definitely knew the value of hard work even before you started working properly?
Properly.
Wow.
So when I started working properly with the labor department, as I told you, we're looking for the fact that employers don't cheat the employees. And employees too don't cheat the employers. And that employers cannot say that I've dismissed you
without just cause.
Just cause.
Okay.
And all those things. So we were doing all those things, and then I went through the ranks. There you promoted to senior labor inspector, labor officer, senior labor officer, principal labor officer, deputy assistant chief labor officer, deputy chief labor officer. I worked in Accra. I was posted to Koforidua. I went to Bolga for 2.5 years. Came back to Cape Coast for 7 years. I was at Koforidua for 7 years. Then came to Accra in 1974.
And you suddenly traveled all over the map.
Ended up in Accra. But in labor department, the advantage we had was that you go on training seminars outside the country, both inside and outside. And so I know when I became a senior officer, it's when you are a senior officer, that is labor officer grade, that you have the chance of traveling. So the first travel I did was to London in 1971 for 4 months. And thereafter, I've been going to other places, 3 weeks, 1 month. I know many places, say Liberia, Kenya, Tanzania, Malawi, Zimbabwe.
How are things run there in comparison to Ghana?
Yes.
Was the system very different?
Yeah, because the systems in Labour Department take their root from International Labour Organization, ILO. So almost the systems are equal.
Okay.
Inspections to see workers are not cheated. You see? So we get all our roots from the International Labour Organization, which was established on 11th April 1919.
Okay.
You see, after the Second World War. And they have something we call standards or conventions and recommendations.
Right.
And when you go there, if you are a member, the country should apply to be a member of ILO. And if you are a member, then you can, as it were, the laws they make, the conventions they make, they say adopt. You see, they don't enact laws. They adopt conventions or they adopt standards.
Right. What's the difference between enacting and adopting?
That's the ILO. ILO is the only organization in the world which is tripartite.
All right.
All the organizations are governmental. ILO is tripartite because it has workers, employers, and government groups. You have the Director General with 3 Deputy Director Generals, 1 for employers, 1 for workers, 1 for government. Okay. And fortunately, Mrs. Chinrese was once upon a time a Deputy Director General at ILO in the 90s, early 90s. So they would discuss the law first, second, third year, and then we go to the plenary at the end of 3rd year or 4th year to adopt it. They say that then we vote to say that we like this law. So when they vote and you agree to the law, that is the convention or you say standards, you agree to it's the government here. So here it is the parliament that would say that we are adopting. But before parliament adopts it, the tripartite group here, that is the National Tripartite Committee. Formerly it was called National Labour Advisory Committee, but now we call it National Tripartite Committee, the new law. They would recommend to the minister, for the minister to recommend to cabinet, for cabinet to send it to parliament. The parliament said that we adopt it. So we talk like say adoption of 8-hour work day, or adoption of maternity protection. Okay. That the adoption of holiday in a year. Say at least if somebody works for 1 continuous year, you should be given at least 50 working days leave. With pay and all those things. So that's what it happens. And when they adopt it, then this country or any other country which is a member country would now say we are ratifying that convention. You are not compulsorily asked to ratify any convention. They have more than 180 conventions, but I think we have ratified 47 of them. Oh. You see, but that is no problem because America, which pays a quarter of ILO budget, has ratified just about 11 or 12 conventions. Oh, so we're ahead of them. Yes, but they are saying that their labor laws are better than the conventions. You see, the conventions is like minimum wage, below which you can't go. All right. So if you ratify a convention, it means that your laws on labor in your country should not be below what they have set out. But it should be about, for example, minimum this is leave. They talk about leave, which is 50 working days. A minimum of 15 working days after you've worked for 1 year. 1 year. You can make your leave 20 days, 50 days. That doesn't matter. Once it is that you can make it 14 days. Right. So it's like the minimum wage thing. Okay. So when we meet with the labor officers in the world, when you compare those, you see that all of us are doing almost the same thing. Okay. You mentioned that you had to work a bit to help your parents. Yes. Were you a large family? Yes. You see, my father and my mother, unfortunately, I did not see them as a husband and wife. Okay. They brought us 2. So we were always with my mother and grandmother. We only go to my father when we need some fees or so. But they were from different towns, but in the same area.
Okay.
The same East Akimabakwa. But in those days, you need to do something. That is, you need to serve your mother and grandmother, or your grandparents. Because you need to go to farm every Saturday. At times, even weekdays, you go to farm before you go to school. And then you need to do family things by going to fetch water from the riverside to home. And then again,
so you had your chores to do
before you go to school at 8 o'clock, and you have to do all these things. And you were doing them religiously, and you go to school without being late. So it means that you have to get up at about 5:30, 6 o'clock. And then we were able to do all these things. And I've been telling people that those people in my age group are the suffering group. Because I'll tell you why I'm saying suffering, because we served our mothers and grandparents. We served our parents and grandparents. And now that we grew up, we are also serving our children and grandchildren. So it means that we have not been able to get some people to.
You're not enjoying the fruits of your labor.
People after 50 years. That is 50 to 100 years, those are living. If you ask any of them, anybody, you ask your parents to, those who were born and now are 50 years and over, they served their parents and grandparents.
From the stories I've been told, I can say that that is very true.
Yes, and then when we grew up, unfortunately, we are serving our children and grandchildren.
How did we get like that?
I don't, it's something I can't understand. So we are a suffering generation. My generation are a suffering generation.
You know, when I first started working, my first real job, I was told that my first salary has to go to my parents because of the investments they put into my education. Then the second one to my extended family. Where did your first salary go?
Myself. But when my parents were leaving, I was giving them, sending them every month.
Oh, okay.
Every month.
All right.
When they were leaving.
I want to talk more about your family, but I need to take another break. So when we come back, we'll find out what Opanin's family was like growing up and where his family is now. Today I am having fun as I am being told tales from the school of hard knocks. My guest today worked as the chief labor officer for this country, and he has so much experience, so much to share. Opanin, I'm really enjoying our conversation, and I would love to talk more about labor and what the labor terrain is like now in Ghana. But before we get there, let me find out a little more about you. Now, you said you grew up in Achem, Ibakwa.
Yes.
And you went to Prempeh College, but I don't know anything else about your childhood. How many siblings did you have?
With my mother, 7. I'm the oldest. I'm the senior. We are 7, but one died 2007 at the age of 72. The one after me. But all the 6 others are living.
Okay, and did they follow your path educationally?
Yes, they followed. One of them is an electrical engineer who's retired. One of them too is educationist, a woman. She's also retired as director of education. And then one is a priest, Methodist. I'm a Presbyterian, but...
Well, I'm a Methodist, so yay for us.
Methodist, one of them. And one of them too is married to a priest, a minister of the church.
Okay.
I think... I've forgotten the church. So they are there, and me too. I married in 1960, and have had 5 children. The first one died at 22 in 1983. When he was 22, just as he finished the 6th form. The rest are there, 2 boys. 2 men, 2 women.
They're grown up now, so you can't call them boys and girls.
2 men, 2 women. And so that's what I have. And after work, I was in Accra here because I had done a book. I've authored a book.
Yes, you mentioned that you had authored a book and it's being used as a lecture tool.
Yes, by the
universities.
Yes, almost all the universities in the country are using it. It's called Industrial Relations in Ghana, the Law and Practice.
Industrial Relations in Ghana, the Law and Practice.
Yes. So people are using it. This is the 3rd edition.
Wow.
And then I've done another book which may come out next month also. You have done other things. It's published by the Ghana University Press.
Okay. Now, so this book is as a result of the experiences and your observations throughout your labor career.
Yes. What happened was that people were coming to me to ask so many questions, so I thought that I should put all those thoughts in a book form. And
okay, this says that you were a member of the Central Management Board that negotiated on behalf of the government with the forum, that civil servants, NATs, judiciary staff, and nurses.
Yes.
What were you negotiating for?
Minimum wages, very much wages. You see, because you know, it is said that wages is the wheel around which all labor relations revolve. It's like a car with tires. If you have a new car from this workshop and there are no tires, the car cannot move. So wages is the wheel around which all labor relations revolve. So you talk about conditions of service, which includes wages, and then terms of employment, which completes welfare of organization. So the Central Management Board, our head was the late A.K. Yankee, former Secretary General of TUC.
Okay.
And we were 11. And the government was to negotiate with the forum on wages and salaries, because government had now ratified, that was PNDC government, had now ratified Convention number 151 concerning negotiations of public service. Because in those days, public services were not negotiating with the employer, which is the government.
Okay.
When I say public service, especially civil service. And the government was...
So it was more or less, government says, this is what you are taking, and that's
and then they appoint a committee, social committee, then they look at the wages, they put it there, take it or leave it. So because the government has ratified Convention number 98 in respect of collective bargaining, and that was used in the private sector. But
the public sector hadn't yet. Oh, I see. You know,
so the ILO saw that the ILO was not being fair to workers in the civil service throughout the world. So they made another convention, 151, concerning negotiations in the public sector. And PNDC government ratified it. So now they should negotiate with them. And those people were the Civil Service Association, NAT. That Nagrat was not there. So NAT, nurses, doctors, and so on. And they called themselves Forum.
Okay.
So we were 11, and I was a member of it. We started negotiation in 1999.
Okay.
So anytime we negotiated, it was actually in respect of salaries, because other things were just around it. But the main thing was the salaries.
Is that the same today? Do you perceive that to be the main issue for negotiation in labor now?
Yes. Now, the organization that negotiates for government is Fair Wages and Salaries Commission. And it's the same thing. Now, they negotiate wages and other terms of employment. You see? So, they negotiate on wages, especially. And I say that normally you only hear about wages, but there are other things.
But there are other things.
Like, say, leave, condition of service, car allowance, so all those things are there, but they are not.
At one place I worked, they talked about ergonomics, as in the kind of chairs and tables you sit at. And
the room that you should occupy, whether there should be this windows, and then whether you should not cramp so many people
in one space.
That is what
whether there are washrooms,
yes, washrooms,
wow.
and whether the washrooms have 2 different entrances for both male and female. It should not be one entrance. It should be 2 different entrances, so that 2 people may not go there and shut themselves up there. So this is what this in there. Now we have Fair Wages and Salaries Commission negotiating on behalf of government, and then we now have the National Labour Commission that deals with complaints on labor. That is workplace complaints. You see, we were not having those things. Those days, the Labour Department, Mine Department, were doing all these things, except the negotiation. So the Labour Department was receiving and helping people to resolve their labor complaints.
Okay. How have things improved since you last worked in the Labour Department? How have things improved now?
Yes, you see, when we were working there, so many people thought that the Labour Department was being something like dictated to by the government. That is the ministry responsible for labor affairs. But I've been telling people that I have worked in the Labour Relations Department, that is Labour Department, for 38 years before I retired. And I know the ministers we had were not compelling us to do what was their wish. We were doing what was the law, but many people thought we should have a separate. So many countries have that. So we agreed, and we said that we should make a new labor law, and the labor law should establish a National Labour Commission, which should also be tripartite. So that when things go there, they'll be fair. So
are things fair?
To a greater extent.
Okay, so you would say that things are better now than they were before?
I should think so. You see, the fact is that this labor law, this new labor law, 203 Act 51, it covers all sectors of the economy, both private and public. And we have 2 people from government side, which I was one, 2 people from worker side, and then 2 people from employer side, making 6, and then you have a neutral chairperson, 7.
So that there isn't a deadlock.
And I will tell you that it was the private sector was complying with most of the things there, but most of the problems that we have with the Labour Commission is those people working in the government sector.
Was it a problem from the employees or the employers, or it was government, or it was just the structure?
It's both, because you see, the government as an employer will sit with the workers' organization, and when the government as an employer is sitting with workers' organization, it should be done by Fair Wages and Salaries Commission. And at times, the politicians may sit with them before it even goes there. And they agree on something we call, then we call them MOU. You see, Memorandum of Understanding. And then the employer will fail to comply with, and that's why they would go on strike. You see, so you see that with the introduction of this new labor law, you see that most of the strikes are from the public sector. Yeah, because the private sector, they comply.
Okay. Our time is almost up, but I need to find out, because it's May Day and everyone is looking at labor, and the hot button right now is the minimum wage and wage increases, and should it go, should it not go. TUC gave government an ultimatum. They said by May 1st, things should be resolved. It's May 1st and we've hit stalemate. How do we push past?
I just saw in your news that they have agreed, that Kofi Asama was saying that they will sign the agreement tomorrow. And I've seen the papers too, this morning's papers, that they've agreed on the 14.5% increase. And then in the case of those people in the civil service, you will give them 10% again, which is called COLA. COLA means cost of living allowance. That one is not part of the pay.
Yes.
So when they are negotiating next year, they would negotiate with the 14.5%. The 14.5% has now come to 6.01 cedis per day.
Is that enough?
I would,
because I was doing some calculations.
Yes. That's why you multiply.
And I was running into debt.
No, that's why you multiply by 27.
Yes.
And what I'm saying is that what they have agreed is something like, you see, negotiation is offer and acceptance. You see.
That is true.
So the government offered, the union offered something, the government also offered something, and then therefore agreed to accept the 14.5. So I wouldn't say it's not good, because the fact is that the workers will take into consideration what the government can pay. You see, so that's why we say that when we are talking, we said the ability to pay. If the government says, I'm going to give you 20% and they are not able to pay, it is worse than giving this. And again, if the government says, I'm giving you 20%, and then after some time they say that because of the increase in the wage bill, I'm declaring some people redundant. And if they are declared redundant, then we are going to have many people on the streets.
Yes. Actually, I was coming to ask that now that it's been increased, I know employers have agreed in principle and they're going to sign and all, but in practice,
they will pay.
When things become difficult and they feel that they can no longer manage to pay it, they may have to make some people redundant. So in that instance, what happens to them? Because they need to earn a living.
That's why I'm saying that's why maybe the organized labor agreed with the 14%, 14.5, so that
people are not made redundant. It's something that is manageable.
Yes. You see, because if you see, for example, this my book, I've written the minimum wages we have had in the country since 1952. There was how many? The first 2 years, 52, 54, the same pay. Then many of them,
it just, as it grows, how it looks.
You see, but why these days it has to be negotiated every year, the leapfrogging of goods and services.
Currency, inflation, goods and services, petroleum.
So you see, they have increased petrol, they have reached that up.
So it doesn't look like it's changing anytime soon.
That's why government has given the 10% COLA, so that after some time, if things are better, if things are stable, that could be removed. Okay,
well, that's all we have time for. And it's a pity because we're learning so much today. Thank you so very much for coming in, Opanin Obeng Fosu. You have been a wealth of information, and thank you for being on PM Personality Profile.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching. As I said, life is full of surprises. Today, I was your surprise. Who knows what's coming your way tomorrow? My name is Jennifer Jane Asante, and this was PM Personality Profile.